Hello and welcome to the Gulf News webinar, Portugal European Residency by Investment, brought to you by Savory and Partners. As investors and families look for security and new opportunities amidst global instability, Portugal has consistently come out on top as the destination that offers one of the world's best residency by investment programs. Non-European investors are increasingly taking advantage of Portugal's highly coveted RBI program to ensure a better future for themselves and their families in the EU. Occupying fourth place in the Expat Insider Survey 2022 by Internations, Portugal is one of the leading global destinations for expats, scoring a ranking within the top 10 positions for quality of life, ease of settling in, leisure options, culture, safety, security, and more. The Portuguese passport ranks amongst the top 5 most powerful and travel-friendly, granting visa-free access to more than 170 countries. Additionally, approved investors can immediately access Portugal's public hospitals at no charge, as well as entry into European universities and job markets. The program not only allows investors and their family members to freely travel, work, live, and study in all Schengen countries, but it is also the only program in Europe that allows access to European citizenship in as little as 5 years without the need to relocate. For those wishing to study in Portugal, they will find outstanding higher education institutions as well as world-class healthcare systems. The country boasts a stunning coastline and a temperate climate away from the harsh European winter. So all of that and more makes it so easy to see why the Portuguese Golden Visa is awarded the best investment migration program year after year. My name is Sally Musa for Gulf News, and I'm excited to be welcoming our speakers today who will be taking you through all that you need to know about successfully acquiring Portuguese residency by investment and the variety of ways that you can make it a reality for yourself and your family. So joining us today are Helena Savory, the founder and CEO of Savory and Partners, as well as Helena Savory, Managing Director of Savory and Partners. And uniquely, they are a husband and wife team, and they are going to be sharing their insights into life in Portugal as a family, as well as discussing all that you need to know about the Portuguese Golden Visa program. Jeremy and Helena, welcome.
Hello, Sally. How are you?
It's so great to have you both. And just before we do get started, I'm going to be reminding everyone who's tuning in today that Jeremy and Helena will be taking your questions towards the end of the webinar. So as we do go along, if you have a question, get it into the questions tab that is to the right of your screen. So Jeremy, let's start with you. It's great to have you. As we just said, of course, you and Helena, you are husband and wife as well as business partners, and you actually decided to raise your family in Portugal. So many, like yourselves, they're seeing Portugal as the best destination for themselves and for their families. So what makes Portugal such an excellent investment migration destination?
Helena, do you want me to do this or you want to go first?
You.
Okay, fine. I'd say it's always been popular. I mean, we've been doing it for several years. I'd say that the fundamentals have always been there, the exceptional climate, the safety, the very high levels of safety and security. You've got so many beaches, you've got green hills, you've got cafe culture, you've got castles. Easy access across Europe. Most of Portuguese people speak fluent English. They're very welcoming and hospitable. So I'd say the fundamentals have always been there. What's happened is probably there's been a few drivers that have really pushed it to unforeseen levels of interest. And one of them is the euro-dollar parity. I mean, it's become considerably more in reach for a lot of investors. Another is just the situation of the geopolitical situation right now, what's happening in the world. No one would have foreseen what would happen with the situation in Russia a year ago. So, and there's other things going on around the world. Actually, there's too many places and countries to name. Look at Sri Lanka, Lebanon, and then you go further west to, capital controls in Egypt, South Africa. So I'd say with all those things going on, people are thinking, well, rather than wait till there's a fire, I'd rather get fire insurance. And the Portuguese Golden Visa program is a nice way where you can invest in something, obtain a plan B, a place to be, obtain all the benefits in the short term, but also there's many more benefits in the long term as well. So I say it's a confluence of factors. And I'd say another main thing is just in April this year, they passed the legislation of Jus Soli, which basically means that if you have a residency, after 1 year of having had the residency, should you have a child born, they would be able to obtain Portuguese nationality immediately. So it's a combination of factors, I'd say.
That is incredibly impressive as well, to say that, if your child is born in Portugal as well, that they can get nationality immediately after, I believe you said it was 1 year. Is that right?
After 1 year of having had the residency, the newborn child can obtain it, yes.
Fantastic. Helena, we'd love to get, your perspective on that question as well. And in terms of, why you're seeing demand for Portugal at an all-time high, particularly from investors here in the region. When you're talking about Dubai, the UAE, so many are looking at Portugal. What are the reasons that they're looking at Portugal?
I think one of the other reasons, apart from what Jeremy was mentioning, was that during the pandemic, Portugal was one of the programs that had high demand and for some reason didn't get that many issues like maybe other programs. Because as you know, during the pandemic, a lot of process got slower, but Portugal kept receiving a lot of applications. So that was something that since the pandemic became very popular and people are looking to do the Golden Visa program.
And that's really important kind of to highlight that as well, because it speaks to the resilience of Portugal, particularly during the global pandemic, which really affected so many countries in such an incredible way. And yet Portugal was one of those countries, as you say, that continued to get applications from people who wanted to take advantage of the RBI program. So Jeremy, talk to us about the different ways that people can attain the Portugal Golden Visa. There are, of course, different ways of investing to attain that residency status.
There's different ways, yes. You can invest in real estate, obviously, which is the vast majority of applicants. You can invest in a fund. There's also the option to invest through a company, although that's a little bit more complicated. There's also a way to do it through a non-refundable charitable donation, which, as far as I'm aware, I think only one person has ever done it, at least in recent history, if not in the history of the program itself. So the vast majority do real estate. It's a lot of these programs. If we zoom out of Portugal, if you look at the Spanish Golden Visa, Greece Golden Visa, and others, there's always been a real estate component because if you're an investor and you want to go and invest your money overseas in a foreign country for the purpose of obtaining a residency or citizenship, typically bricks and mortar is what most people feel comfortable doing. They don't want to be something that would distract from their primary business. They don't want to have anything that would have the risk of not succeeding because, it just, when these programs are designed, they want to make it as attractive as possible. So those are all the options that are available. When it comes to real estate, the legislation changed at the turn of the year to limit certain areas and then to apply thresholds, investment thresholds, depending on the asset class. So, commercial, retail, non-residential, which would mean sort of serviced apartments, hotel management, student apartments. So those are the different options out there.
Fantastic. We love to see that. And we're going to delve into the different options for real estate investments in just a moment. But throughout the webinar, there will be poll questions for our audience to answer because we would love to know your thoughts. And so we're going to be sharing our first poll question right here. And you're going to see it to the right of your screen if you just click on the polls there, which says, what's your top priority when you're considering Portugal's residency by investment program? Is it a good lifestyle for you and your family? Is it about a pathway to EU citizenship? Is it for you about return on investment? Is it for easy international travel, or is it all of the above? Make sure that you do get your answers in to the right on your screen there where you can see the polls are. And we would love to see where everybody is at in terms of what they're thinking, what they want to do, why they want to access the Portuguese Golden Visa. So, Helena, as Jeremy mentioned just now, there are minimum requirements for real estate investment. So take us through the different options there for real estate investment.
For real estate, okay. To be able to apply for the Golden Visa, you need to invest in real estate. So 350,000 euros for a high density area and 280,000 euros for low density areas. So a good example of high density areas are Lisbon and Porto, that are the main cities in Portugal and are very popular tourist destinations. And then, like Jeremy was saying, since the beginning of this year, investors could buy just commercial properties in those cities that are very popular. I think it's important to mention that low density areas include small cities in Portugal that have beautiful countryside, wine regions, or even beach tourist holiday destinations. So these are very good options as well for those that want to take this option, because when you are thinking to have a place to retire or to enjoy a place even every year to go on holiday, these are also very nice places to go, and all the Portuguese people go there on holiday very often.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because the last summer that just went by, I know that I was going through my social media feed and I had so many friends who were going to Portugal for the summer, and I was incredibly jealous that I was not there as well. It looks amazing. I know of people who have also moved there. They've decided that they want, a change of lifestyle to get that work-life balance. And Portugal seems like such an incredible and beautiful and idyllic place for that. Would you say that? Because, I'd love for the two of you to kind of, speak a little bit more to that. What is it like living in Portugal? What did you love most about it, Helena?
I think the fact that it has a lot of places to discover. When we first moved there, we didn't know anything about the country. But then we realized that there were so many nice places to see. We had like a list of holiday destinations we wanted to visit. And the beaches are absolutely beautiful. Algarve, Madeira, even I didn't know that until I moved there. Algarve is very popular between British. I was like listening like Jeremy's friends all the time going there on holiday. So, a lot of Europeans go there because the beaches are very, very nice.
And there are still, it seems that there are still places for people to discover, some great investments to be had. So Jeremy, I'm going to come back to you on that one and ask you, of course, people have so many reasons to invest in Portugal, but we're looking at a good return for investment. That's what investors are looking for. So talk to us about some of the returns that investors can in fact expect there.
Okay, so the return on investment, would, I think that you can look at the rental income, you can look at the capital growth, and then you can look at other factors coming into play. In terms of the rental income, what a lot of people are doing before they change the legislation at the turn of the year were buying apartments anywhere without the limitations they have in place today, and putting on Airbnb. And there was a tax incentive to put it on Airbnb as well. Since the turn of the year now, if you want to buy in Lisbon and Porto, as Helena said, then it has to be a non-residential property, so commercial, retail, and mainly touristic managed properties or student managed properties. When you do this, the returns are going to be in line with European averages, which is 3 to 5%. But a lot of it, bearing in mind that Portugal is very heavily based on tourism, it's the main driver. Like you said, your friends were going there on holiday. Last time I was there in August, it was many Americans going there. Actually, they're one of the largest buyers of Golden Visa properties right now. And I see that amount growing as well. So the rental income is around European averages, but because a lot of it is touristic, then you'll find hotel management companies or touristic developers that will underwrite the guarantees for the investors, because they also know what we know is that nobody really wants to be having a leak in their bathroom in the middle of the day and in some countryside location and having to deal with a Portuguese plumber that maybe the English isn't so great and trying to get that fixed. So they take a lot of the headache out of it. But you've got other options. You can buy, we've got shopfront locations in Lisbon. We've got a student accommodation launch coming up by the end of this month, which I think is going to be extremely attractive. In terms of capital gains, property prices last year, when people heard that there was going to be changes in terms of limiting the areas where people could buy, were saying, oh, well, that's it. Property price is going to drop. Actually, they've gone up more than, into the double digits now. So over 10%, they've gone up since last year. Why is that? I would say that a lot of that is factors outside of the Golden Visa. If you look at the data, it's not actually that many property transactions that are towards Golden Visa. It's a very small percentage. A lot of the transactions are Portuguese themselves, obviously, but then you've got people who are buying as part of their residency requirement as they're moving there. So Golden Visa, obviously, the whole is designed for people that aren't going to move there. You get all the benefits without having to move there. But there are a lot of people that are moving there. Europeans, Americans, Scandinavians, people doing the other residency programs they have, which require 180 days a year, such as D7, D2, the NHR application, the non-habitual residency. And all of this is just pushing up rents. And if it's pushing up rents, it's pushing up prices. Until recently, mortgage rates were very low. They're still comparatively low. And that is another reason why property prices are going up. So when you add the rental return, plus the capital gains, plus just the outlook in terms of ever-increasing net migration to Portugal, this is a lot of, investors can see all this.
There is a lot to be looking forward to, it seems, in terms of the way that real estate prices are going, the kind of investments that can be made there, even with the changes in the rules for investment as well. Helena, one of the biggest questions, of course, that people have is, how do you go from being a resident by investment to becoming a citizen through Portugal's Golden Visa program?
Okay, well, this is a Golden Visa program that could lead to the citizenship, but as long as the applicant fulfill all necessary criteria to get the citizenship. So saying that includes that they need to spend 14 days every 2 years, maintain the Golden Visa at least for 5 years, and then after that the applicant could apply for the permanent residency or the citizenship if it's willing to do the language test, which is a A2 proficiency level. So this is one of the things that people should consider, that if they are conscious that they need to take Portuguese lessons, that they need to use these 5 years to study, to visit the country, to learn about the culture, because it's very interesting. And the other way could be, like Jeremy was saying, the law called jus soli, that any baby that is born there could get the citizenship even if the parents are not citizens.
And that is really fantastic to hear, that it's only 14 days every 2 years. So, that's 7 days a year. You don't actually have to live in Portugal to attain the citizenship in the end. But like you said, there is the language test as well. But, this is not at a very difficult level, is it?
Not really, but still, you need to learn the language. So,
I mean,
it is possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, in Europe, across Europe, I don't know a program that doesn't require a language test at some point, whether through descendancy, through marriage, and through residency. The main thing that people need to understand is that if you haven't had a child yet, this is extremely attractive. If you've already got a child, they will learn it much, much faster. And failing that, you can also study and acquire it yourself. I've met people there actually that are non-Portuguese and they have learned the language. So we also try to explain to people, it's just like if there is an easier way to obtain European nationality, I don't want to say easier, I want to say more direct, then you can do Malta, the Maltese program, Citizenship by Investment program, but you're looking at well over €1 million, 650,000 euros of which is a donation. So it's either that or this. If you look at the worst case scenario, is that you obtain, is that you have a property that's generating a return, it's going up in value, that you're buying at a discount with today's exchange rate, which will be, assuming in 5-6 years or whenever you want to decide your exit, you're reconverting back into dollars, you're making gain on the exchange as well. And after all that time, you've had the residency and your children have obtained the nationality through the language test, but you haven't. I'd still say that's a pretty good deal compared to everything else that's out there. And that's another thing that is important to mention, is that the options that are out there, the alternatives, the peers of the Portuguese Golden Visa program, are either closing, getting more expensive, or getting more difficult. Greece has just announced that it's going to go up to 500,000 euros. Montenegro is closing at the end of the year. Turkey has already increased its threshold. So when you look at Portugal and you see the entry point is 1 million dirhams, 280,000 euros, and for that you make profit and you get a residency, and that's your worst case scenario. I mean, this is another reason, as I alluded to earlier, why so many people are applying this year.
And so they should be. Jeremy, let me ask you a little bit about the rules. There are new rules for investment that have been introduced that happened this year in 2022. So talk to us a little bit about what that means for investors and how that will impact their investments.
Well, this is, as Helena kind of partially answered before. So what happened is it's a socialist government in Portugal, and with prices going up. I mean, the Golden Visa has been around since 2012. Property prices were going up in Lisbon, and it got to the point where, being a socialist government, they wanted to try and stop Portuguese people getting priced out too much out of Lisbon, and so they put in place some legislation, not just to kind of control property prices, because it seems it's still going up, as I mentioned, primarily because of net migration from overseas investors, but also to support the tourism industry during the pandemic. Every tourism sector around the world, I would say, was the most affected by the pandemic. I mean, people aren't going on holiday. People are not taking non-essential travel. And so the new legislation, if you see it, it kind of supports the hospitality sector, as well as other sectors, but primarily there. And so what that's done is it was trying to control one thing, which is overheating property prices, which it's done very well, but it's also supported the industry. Hospitality is and tourism at large is a main economic driver in Portugal. If you think about the entire, all those people who visited Portugal, their feedback has always been extremely positive, because people are extremely welcoming. people speak multiple languages. Everyone speaks Portuguese, everyone speaks English in Portugal, but a lot of them also speak French and Spanish. So, they're very talented and motivated workforce in the hospitality sector and everywhere. So people always come back with a lot of positive impressions, either as a tourist or as an investor in Portugal, and we're no different as being residents ourselves.
And, this is something that you and Helena have tried yourself as non-Portuguese yourself and lived there. And it's a place that your family loves. So we're going to get into more about what the one-to-one exchange between the dollar and the euro means in just a second. But let's go to our poll questions. Our first one, let's have a look and see where everybody's at. And the question was, what's your top priority when you're considering Portugal's residency by investment program? So the lowest one was for the return on investment. Then we had a good lifestyle for themselves and their family. 12% also said pathway to EU citizenship. And we had 24% saying for easy international travel. But of course, the majority, 44%, said for all of the above. And who wouldn't want to do that? There are so many reasons to invest today in the Portugal Golden Visa. So let's jump in to our second question here, and it's about the euro-dollar parity. Is it a good time to invest in Portuguese real estate? What do you think? The answer is just yes or no. Do you think it's a good time to get in on there with the euro-dollar parity? So Helena, talk to us a little bit about that, the almost one-to-one exchange between the dollar and the euro. What kind of economic advantages does that give businesses and investors?
I think it is important to consider that if you are someone that likes to invest, it's a good opportunity to have investments in different countries. For example, we have clients that have many properties just in UAE, but it's important to not to put all your your options in the same place. So I definitely believe that it's a good time to invest, to buy in Europe, or just to diversify your assets. Maybe
Absolutely.
Jeremy would like to add something else.
I think the exchange rate obviously is one thing, but you also look at how the real estate sector is performing independent of the exchange rate. I think also things like the other programs that are becoming more limited are driving people away from those programs. Like Montenegro right now is closing at the end of the year. So if you've got any time left, it's almost closed now. So those people are moving towards Portugal. When Turkey was at $250,000, a lot of people were doing it. Then I think it was June, July, August, around there. We had clients that I was actually in Istanbul with my last clients, just trying to get them in before the deadline. Those now 400,000 saying, well, actually, hang on a minute, I'll do Portugal. You've got that as well. And then just through our own experiences, we've grown our team in Lisbon. We've also noticed, some very smart real estate plays that can be done. So we've got clients who are, once they've got the Golden Visa, because to get the Golden Visa, you can't do any real estate plays. It's very straightforward. But those people who invested and seen it and said, hold on a minute, I'll do more business here. We've given them some tips in how to leverage, how to use corporate structuring, rental, short-term, long-term, and those are things that our clients see a lot of value in when they use us.
And so then, the question that after all of that everybody has on their mind is, am I eligible? Jeremy. So, talk to us about who is actually eligible to get in for the Portuguese Golden Visa.
Everybody is eligible. The investment threshold, as I mentioned, is 280,000 euros. That needs to be cash. You can buy something over and above 280,000 euros. You can obtain potentially non-resident finance if you want to, that difference. Or you can do something off plan, which is over 280,000. So you put down the 280 just so at least your permanent residency process can start, and then the rest you can pay in installments because that's not contingent on getting the residency. There's no nationality restrictions. The banks there will do their compliance before they receive the client's funds in order to purchase the property of their choosing. So they need to be of a clean background. But there's no limitations, and we've seen a very broad spectrum of investors from really all across the world. We've actually had quite a good number of British and American investors, so really anybody can apply.
And so, Helena, if I can come back to you, in terms of investing in real estate, what should investors be wary of when they're choosing their next investment?
Okay, when it comes to real estate, I think it is important to get advice from people that understands the market, that if they have invested there or they are locals or living there, even better. Because, once there was a person that told Jeremy that he bought a property for much more than what he was offered to us a few months back, for example. So, and when it comes to maybe maintenance, I think it's important to get more than one quotation because when maybe these kind of things happen in every country, but when you are expats, maybe quotations on these kind of things try to increase. We experienced a bit that when we were living there, that after the repairs and everything, when we left the apartment, we didn't have any of our deposit back. But maybe that was because the landlord didn't live in the country. So, she just paid the first quotation, or, maybe these kind of things happen when you have two little kids living there.
Yeah, all of these, little things that you kind of have to be reminded of, and to have those who are natives or people who know Portugal, people who not only work there but can take you through the ins and outs of what it is like to be there, what you need to be really thinking of. And Jeremy, of course, people are thinking, I want to get in on these real estate deals, and particularly as we talk about a boom that is happening in real estate in Portugal. What's the outlook looking like, and what that means for investors?
Well, as Helena alluded to there, we've had by and large an extremely positive experience of living in Portugal. Made a lot of friends. We've discovered so much about the country as well. We've invested there. We've hired there. We've done many things. And maybe after I finish, Helena can talk more about family life, having the kids and everything, and how we managed to lose such large parts of our deposits thanks to our two little boys. But a lot of unfortunately, the main drawbacks that we faced were actually property related. The only negatives we experienced being buyers or renters or just looking at properties were, that's where we had, the least positive, should I say, experiences. It was, there's a lot of real estate brokers there, for example. The quality really varies. And it's not just myself who've noticed this. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of guys I know, friends of mine. We've lived there for some time now, so we've got a lot of friends, and they all say, you've really got to find a very good broker. The process of renting, you've got to be clued up on the legislation. So when we first moved there, we realized that the house that we got actually wasn't in the best location, given we had two little boys. So when we wanted to leave, we couldn't just give 2 months notice. We had to stay for much longer. Again, things that weren't explained clearly to us by the broker we had at the time. When the pandemic came into play, property rents dropped a lot because a lot of properties are on Airbnb. And so what happened is a lot of those people had it on short term, moved to long term. And so we were able to leave. I called back the same broker and said, we want to move to this area. And she was like, how much are you paying now? And I told her this. And she's like, no, I can't believe you're paying that much. I was like, you rented it to me. You rented it to me. So you can't believe how much you rented to me in the first place. So there was a few things which, and again, it was mainly property related. Like we went to see properties that were not structurally sound, or we found out the person who was looking to sell it to us was actually connected somehow with the intermediary. It's just, you've got to be very careful. And as our clients tell us, they're very happy that we've kind of done their homework for them. As a couple of people recently told me, it's like, you went to school for us, because we went through this process. We live there, we're on the ground, we have Portuguese mobile phone, we know people that know people. We love the country as much as Portuguese people, and we really see a lot of fantastic benefits about it in terms of a lifestyle. But having our own, by having fully invested there over the last few years, we can take a lot of the risk and stress out of it. We have all the real estate experience, legal experience, immigration experience, and then also the family life experience, which maybe Helena can tell you a little bit more what it's like having two little boys in Portugal.
Yeah, please.
Well, when we moved, we didn't know anything about the country, basically. We had to start our research from zero, about schools, about hospitals, about everything, where were the kids-friendly places to go. So it was interesting, but luckily we met a lot of expats, so even Portuguese families were very friendly, happy and willing to help us to understand and know more about life as a family in Portugal. So yeah, we were lucky we met expats and Portuguese there.
And so now you have this invaluable experience of what it is like to be there. And of course, it gives you incredible insights as well for those that you are going to be helping through Savory and Partners, who want to access the RBI program, who want to access the right real estate investment. So, this is so amazing and so crucial, really, for anybody. And I know a lot of people, I'm just looking at the questions that are coming through right now. Many people are texting in with their questions. Please, if you haven't sent in your question, if you have one, please do send it through in the questions tab on the right of your screen. So we're going to get to those towards the end. Let's take a look at the poll questions now. Our second poll question and the result there, with the euro-dollar parity, is it a good time to invest in Portuguese real estate? 94% are saying absolutely, this is the time to get in. Yet another reason why it's a brilliant time to invest in the Portuguese Golden Visa. So we've got our third poll question now running. It has just gone live. And the question is, when can RBI residents apply for the Portuguese citizenship? If you were listening carefully, you would know the answer to this one. Is it after 5 years? Is it after 6 years? Or is it after 7 years? So get your answers in there. Helena, in terms of the Golden Visa holders wanting to sponsor their family members to come and live in Portugal, can they do that?
Yes, they can, as long as they are dependents. And kids need to study as well. They need to show that dependence to the main applicant. So definitely, yes, they can.
And are there any particular rules there in terms of, apart from the fact that they're dependents, are there certain age groups and so on and so forth?
So if the kids are older, 18 and above, they need to show that they are studying and that they are unmarried.
Okay. And in terms of, what about family members? Like, for example, if I have my parents that I want to bring over, does that work as well? If I have a brother or a sister that I'd like to sponsor to bring over to Portugal?
Brothers and sisters it gets a little bit. We can't put everyone into one application. It's the same when we do it in the Caribbean. There's a limit to what they'll accept as per the statutes of the law. So as Helena explained, those are the maximum you can do. If you start to move sideways into siblings, it's less likely, especially if they're financially financially independent. So we've had cases, for example, where I think we had one family of 3 I think it was like 3 siblings, and but what they did is they all put in together. So they did, I think it was a 350. So what they did is they bought a very nice, I think it was a penthouse actually. They bought a penthouse, and it was 3 applications of 350,000. So we're used to putting applications together. When it's coming to multiple members of a family that wouldn't qualify all under one application.
And so, and particularly if you do, say, for example, have, elderly parents that you'd like to bring over, Jeremy, would that be separate again?
That one I would have to check with my team on. I think I think Portugal is a little bit more restrictive than, for example, the countries in the Caribbean. But I think that's something that ought to bring our legal team on board for that one.
Amazing. And so, we talked a little bit about the requirements to move from residency to citizenship. There is, of course, as we were saying, the requirement of living there for a minimum of course, for 5 years. That you do, of course, need to be there for a minimum of 14 days every 2 years, which is, brilliant. If you need to be back in the UAE, in Dubai, whatever it is, you can still access citizenship. It's not a requirement as with so many other countries.
We also get the benefit of full access to the EU member states. So, given a case in point is that during the pandemic, I was in Dubai. The pandemic was coming in from the east. It was coming from, as we all can remember, the origin was China. So what was happening is that there was a point where you were not going to be able to go to any European country unless you were either a citizen or a residency card holder. So, you could take that flight to Paris that you wouldn't have taken otherwise. If you had a Schengen visa in a non-EU passport, even a Canadian or an American, you were not going to be able to get on that plane. So it's not just what you get in Portugal over the 5 years and at the end when you want to apply for citizenship, but it's also the other benefits that you have. You have education, you have healthcare. You've got, talking about education, you've got a lot of international schools that are popping up in Lisbon. The last few months when I was there, I met with several people I know who are all parts of consortia that are investors in international schools. So you've got the French school, you've got the very famous British school called St. Julian's, which we enrolled our eldest son into. That's extremely popular and oversubscribed. But you've got other schools, you've got Park school coming up, you've got a German school. So they're United. So you've got all these different international schools coming in. And again, this is all catering to all those international families that are moving there and want to put their kids into an international school. But you've also got Portuguese families putting their kids in international school. So when we went to St. Julian's, which is, widely known as the best in Portugal, it was a real mix of Portuguese students and international students. And all of them were speaking both languages. So you had the international students speaking Portuguese and vice versa. So yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits over and above just going for the citizenship over that time frame.
Absolutely, definitely. Like you said, it's a gateway to the EU as well, and an incredible array of opportunities right there. Helena, as we heard earlier, the Portuguese government has made changes this year to the RBI program, but how likely do you think they are to make further changes and to apply conditions to their residency by investment program?
Well, they just made changes this year. I don't think there are going to be anytime soon, but we really don't know. It really depends on the government. Sometimes before they take a decision, they take time before they actually implement it. So if they want to change something, then we will have to wait until what they decide.
I think
so. Yes, please go ahead.
Sorry, I think they will. I mean, when you see what the other countries have done, I mean, it's peers. Look at Turkey, look at Greece. If those have increased their minimum thresholds to be at minimum 400, 500, and in Portugal is at 280 and 350, I mean, as Helena said, yeah, they just passed it recently, so I don't foresee it coming that soon, but I do foresee it happening eventually. I think it would see, especially if the demand is there, they wouldn't want to over increase it, I would say, because then that's counterintuitive. And I would say, look at maybe Turkey as an example. I don't see as much demand at 400 that there was at 250. So I think they'd want to listen to advisors and investors and stakeholders in the program to try and find how they would change it. But I do foresee them increasing the threshold at some point. I think at 280 and 350, it's really a very nice proposition. I noticed also, I saw some questions from some people asking, so I don't know when you want to ask these, but one of them was 200, which name some cities in low density locations. So that's quite good because we've mentioned 350 is Porto and Lisbon, where a lot of investors go, but at 280,000 euros, where are you investing? Because the way that it's divided up is that's low density areas. To give you some examples of low density areas, I'd say the most popular one we've had for clients would be locations in the Algarve. So you've got Lagos, Faro. We've seen projects down in the Algarve there, but you've also got in the Alentejo region, which is just over the bridge from Lisbon, about an hour and 15 south. And then you've got mainly locations such as Alcacer do Sul, which is, you've got Grândola as well, which are near Comporta, which are coast, kind of very, very close to the coast, but not on the coast. But the main one that a lot of people seem to be investing in, especially from a tourism standpoint, is Évora. So Évora is a UNESCO heritage site, a very pretty little town. It's in the middle of the wine region, and it's got a lot of strong touristic data coming through. So there's a lot of projects coming up around there and the surrounding region.
Evera, I like that. I'm going to write that one down as something to explore further as well. And yeah, thank you for the rundown there. We are just about to get to the questions in just a moment, so keep them coming through. There are a few that have already come in. But in terms of, Jeremy, when we're looking at who to trust with this, it's a big deal, applying for residency by investment and making sure that we get this done. You guys have a 100% approval rate for your applications, but talk to us about what makes Savory and Partners so well placed to help those who are looking to apply for the Portugal Golden Visa.
Well, I'd say the main thing is that we're on the buyer side, so we're not a Portuguese company. We're Portuguese residents, but as Helena mentioned, we'd only spent a short holiday there prior. So we don't have any bias. We're purely looking at it as from an independent standpoint. We've processed hundreds and hundreds of applications, over 1,000 plus, across the world in different jurisdictions, in probably 10, 12 different jurisdictions. So number one, I'd say we're impartial. So we're not in Portugal trying to get people to invest in Portugal. We're literally here saying, look, there's many different options out there. There's Greece, Malta, Ireland. You've got the Caribbean countries, which have been so popular for so many years. So we apply international expertise and knowledge of the programs. So we're completely impartial. Yes, we're residents, but if it doesn't match your goals and your aims as an investor, then we'll tell you that there are other options out there. So I think being impartial is important. We also bring everything in-house, so investors don't use any third parties. We take care of the whole thing from A to Z. So there's no kind of he said, she said type of thing going on. There will be bumps in the road. There always are in immigration programs, but we manage the bumps in the road by putting ourselves in the middle and just saying we'll take care of the whole process. And again, as clients said, we've done it firsthand. We know a lot of people on the ground across Portugal. We've invested in their country in terms of financially, but also culturally. Our kids they love Portugal. They love they know a few words. We know the cuisine. We explored the country to the point where we didn't even know there was a ski resort in Portugal, but we ended up going up into the mountains in Serra da Estrela, and so when you're dealing with Portuguese real estate brokers, developers, lawyers, immigration authorities, and you're also you're not Portuguese, but you appreciate how much of it has so much going for it in such a wonderful country it is, and the people are so hospitable. It opens a lot of doors, but it also means that we can help our clients by using those bridges that we've built over the years. Then there's also the fact that we're a very large firm, so we bring a lot of clients. When you bring a lot of clients, it gives you a little bit of leverage for when there's a bump in the road with a particular investor in a particular project. You have you're not that one person doing it by themselves. I'd hate to be that one investor that wants to do it by themselves and DIY the whole thing, because they're more than welcome to. But you think how many of these unfortunately say like negative experiences we faced as a family living in Portugal with a Portuguese number, Portuguese address. We can understand Portuguese. We can read Portuguese. I represent a firm that can bring a lot of future business, and yet still, on more than one occasion, we saw things that we were not comfortable with. So anyone can do it themselves, and if there is a problem, you're just one investor. When you're acting on behalf of, hundreds of investors, you can usually find a way to fix a problem for that one client by using the volume that you have.
Oh, it's vital. I mean, that it gives you a strength that, coming in on your own, as you say, you just don't have that background and the knowledge that you guys can bring to this whole process, and to be able to advise clients at every step of the way, because that's what everybody needs when you're going into the unknown like that. Yes, there's a lot to get excited about, but there's a lot to also think about that it wouldn't have occurred to that person who wants to apply for the RBI program. So let's take a look at our final poll question, and people have thankfully been getting it right. Yes, it is 5 years that you need to apply for the Portuguese citizenship after you have attained the residency by investment. And so let's get into the questions. Many questions coming through. First one coming in here from Nafad. What is the lowest budget needed for an adult couple for residency, including buying a property? Helena.
The minimum is 280,000 euros, but it should be in low density areas. That he can include the wife as well in this application for this investment.
Right, perfect. So it's 200. Yes.
Oh, sorry, you need to also add on the cost of the residency itself. So the residency application, the biometrics, when you buy the property, there is stamp duty. There is also sometimes IMT, which is the municipal tax at 6.5%. Some projects will waive this for the investor. And then, of course, you need to renew it because it's only for 2 years. So you should understand that you have the renewal. So when you put it all together, obviously it's not 280 all inclusive. You're looking at probably, well, it really depends, again, family size, whether the IMT is included or not. Just because it says 280, there aren't, always magically properties available at exactly 280,000 euros, could be 285, 290, 300. But what we do is we help the clients to prepare a cost simulation so they can see how much you really need and going forward. But that person, as a husband and wife, they're the main people, I would say, who would have immediate benefit because of the legislation passed in April regarding newborn children.
Perfect. Okay, this one is coming in from Karim asking about what the tax schemes and tax structures are like in Portugal? Jeremy, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, tax is always a bit of a letdown when we need to talk about nice positive things about Portugal. So tax is it's Europe, so there is tax. You have again, it's quite broad in terms of, you know, is it capital gains tax or rental income tax? Portugal has, I would say, comparatively speaking, quite high taxes. The thing with taxes, however, is that you can also offset against them with your expenses. So as part of the process, when you invest in Portugal, you're given a tax ID. It's called a NIF. Wherever you go and you buy things in restaurants and shops and cafes and bars, they will always ask you if you want the NIF. What you do is you have that NIF and you can basically, you keep it as receipts to offset against your tax. Now, when it comes to corporate tax, you know, we have our advisors that can explain everything, but most of our clients, they're not really too exposed to taxes as they're not actually going to be resident there. You know, they're doing the Golden Visa, so they're not actually resident there. So they're doing the Golden Visa, just have 2 weeks per 2 years, every 2 years. And they will keep their tax residency as wherever they're living at the moment without moving it to Portugal. So that's a question that we're happy to answer and we can explain, but it's not something that people really need to be too concerned about until they actually move there. What they do need to be concerned about is the taxes on the property. So, for example, rental income tax is at 28%, and then you've got capital gains tax when you sell the property as well. But we give them the full breakdown when we do the financial simulation when they invest in property. But when it comes to doing other things like opening companies, that's something typically our clients do after they've got the residency. Once they've been there, they've done their biometric appointments, and they're happy to look at other opportunities. So, for example, they would incorporate a company for the purpose of acquiring real estate, offsetting the costs of purchase, maintenance. Sometimes they use companies for this.
Excellent. Okay. And like you said, it's really important to realize, you know, this is general information, but everybody's going to have very specific circumstances that need to be looked at, which, you know, warrants a proper conversation with Savory and partners. Helena, if you can talk to us a little bit more, Nafat is asking another question, really excited about this. Asking about the low density cities that are attracting investments now. I know that you've mentioned them previously a little bit, just a bit of a recap on those.
Okay, so the low density areas are the small cities in Portugal that need, you know, this investment from overseas to be stronger in their tourism, because as you know, the tourism is very trendy in Portugal recently, and is the main income for them. So as I said, these are places that are very touristic, and because of the Golden Visa program, you see like they are getting more life, new hotels, new places. And so you can invest actually in residential, in some of the areas, residential or commercial as well. So commercial is like managed by a hotel, you know, different options, but these are this is basically what it is.
You can also buy non-touristic managed properties if you want. There's a different threshold criteria for this. So you can buy in literally a villa in the middle of nowhere, and you would not have to have it managed by a management company or hotel managed. The only downside with that is that would I can foresee that being a huge management headache for the investor. I mean, first of all, when you go in low density areas, you're not going to have access to a huge amount of options in terms of property management companies, plumbers, electricians, and then when you have issues, you're going to have to be dealing with that because of time zones and time differences. So as of now, I'm not aware of any of our clients who've gone for that option. They do sometimes go for the low densities, Evora being one of them. There's a new project, Grandula, that's very close to Comporta. Comporta is now becoming the top 3 areas in terms of price per square meter, because a lot of high-end investors have been investing there. So our investors can be right next door to that at just from 280,000 euros.
Let's jump back into the capital, Lisbon. Godwin has got a question because he was listening very carefully, and he heard about the upcoming student accommodation project that you've got going on there as well, and he's wondering how much it would cost to invest in that. Any preview you can give us to that one?
Yeah, I can't give too many details right now, but I can see it being a very, very popular project. It's 350,000 euros because it's in a high density area. It's a proper project that I haven't been that excited about for a project for some time. Reason being is that it's right opposite probably one of the most in-demand international schools in Portugal, walking distance. I also know the area very well. So I've already done the DD, and education is really important when you consider about all the net inflows of Golden Visa's investors who are at some point going to be spending more time there at retirement or when their plans change. But then you look at all the other nationalities that are moving there for tax reasons, for the other programs that are there, such as the D7 and the NHR program. You've got all these people and they're all looking for schools. And they're looking for a student accommodation, which is sometimes referred to as PBSA, purpose-built student accommodation. So typically, as it was the case in Spain and UK and the US, you would just rent a regular apartment to be able to, close to the university, much like I did when I went to uni. Nowadays, you've got purpose-built student accommodation, which is making it one building with security, in-house services, gyms, cleaning facilities, concierge services, and it's more a place just for all the students to kind of hang out together. So those type of projects, which have been popping up in more and more countries, are extremely profitable just as investors, let alone getting a residency. So the fact that you've got two coming together, two different investment opportunities in one place, and just the fact that I know the location very well, and I know that it's right next to the number one place where I would say a lot of people are going to try and put their kids in as far as international schools go, I can see that one selling very quickly. It'll be coming out at the end of this month. And I'm speaking to a few investors already just to be with their checkbooks ready.
This is the time to start the conversation, isn't it, Jeremy? To kind of get the ball rolling, and then as the investment opportunities pop up, then it's really a first come first serve kind of situation, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I had a chap I met 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "I don't want to buy anything off the pan. I'm going to buy, and these are my terms of investment. I want this, 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 and this." And I said, "I don't think you really have the luxury of all those options. There's a lot of demand. Saying I'm only going to buy something that's ready is probably saying I'm going to buy whatever's left at the end of the sales." And you don't want to be getting, as they say in English, the runt of the litter. You don't want to have the last one left. So you want to be one of the first ones in. So yeah, I don't think you should. I think you need to get into a project at the earliest stage to have the best choice of selecting the best unit. That's the same with real estate investment anywhere, not just in Portugal. With the demand that there is right now, we're seeing projects getting pretty much sold out even before construction has reached, I would say, 6 months of construction. Another thing people need to consider as well is that when you're doing 280,000, 350,000, the main criteria is the fact that 280,000 is low density, 350,000 is high density, but they have to be properties older than 30 years, and they have to be a property that has been approved for renovation. So some people might say, okay, well, hang on a minute, I'll just buy a wreck of a property and I'll fix it up and I'll qualify for 280. It's not as simple as that. You need to get approvals from the municipality that you can demonstrate that that project is going to reach its satisfaction levels, but also that you can show that it will be structurally sound, and also that it will be used for non-residential purposes. So, that's a hotel brand, it's a hotel management company. So anyone who think that they can kind of do it, DIY it's not going to work. You're going to be left with a costly mistake. So this is something else that investors should consider.
I love that. Really important insights there. Alwyn is asking, what are Savory and Partners fees for the process of RBI, and in terms of the timeline that they're looking at, how long between starting the process and getting that residency by investment? Helena.
Okay, so once the investor makes the purchase of the real estate, then we start with the application. So this is the first stage. We apply in CEF, that is the immigration office in Portugal. Then to get the pre-approval, the first pre-approval is 3 months after the application, around 3 months. Then after this, the client should expect the appointment for the biometrics around 6 months after that. And then, there is a waiting period until they get the Golden Visa, and it really varies, depends on the circumstances, or maybe the demand, or, there is a line in the office. So it's around this time.
Excellent. Okay. Another question. Is there an installment program for the 280,000 euros? As we said, it might not be exactly 280. It depends, very much on what is out there, what is available. Jeremy?
So, for the 280,000, no, it needs to be cash. These programs are designed to bring cash investments. So the process will only start once that person has paid the final of the 280. So if you pay 100 now, nothing will start. If you pay 180 again, when you get to the 280 and you've demonstrated that you've invested the 280,000 euros, only then will the process actually commence.
Okay, very important there. Returns on the investment on properties in the interiors that Portugal is promoting. That's a question from Samira.
Returns, I would say probably, I would say off the top of my head, probably lower. They're low density, so there's just less people, less demand, less known. However, places in the Algarve, they typically hold up very well because it's a very well-established and popular tourist destination. So again, I would just and also it depends on the project itself. Does it have a golf course? Has it got a sea view? Sometimes you have projects which already are existing, going through a renovation phase or an expansion phase, so already it has its presence online. So it doesn't have to worry about any of the issues that new developments happen, new hotels happen, which is, gaining traction, getting reviews, a soft opening process where the revenues are lower. But as an average, I'd say 3 to 5%. We have projects that guarantee 3%, 4%, 5%. Some of them, they will do profit share. Some of them, they'll guarantee it for 5 years, and then they will move to a profit share. There's many different projects that we can present to investors to give them a full range.
Last couple of questions. I'm going to kind of, put them together because they're asking for something very similar. One asking what are the best locations to buy property with the lowest investment with good monthly returns. Is it better to buy a property in an area which you can rent out that property on Airbnb? The other question that was there that was kind of similar is, to help people make decisions, they wanted to know more about the locations, which, we're discussing now, locations versus minimum investment threshold versus ROI. So, Jeremy, can you enlighten us a little bit more around that? People want to know, where can I get the best investment for the lowest amount of money? Yeah,
that's the golden question, right? That's what everybody wants. I would say just for that chap who wants to put it on Airbnb, if you do this, you won't qualify for the 280 and 350,000 euro thresholds. You'd have to go for the higher threshold. And if you do that, again, you'll have to get your own cleaning setup, cleaning supplies. You'll have to have an accountant to manage all of that for you as well, for your the tax that you would have to be paying on your income and your expenses. Long term is more stable, but probably less lucrative. But so for those people, I think last year that would have been the time to do it. I think this year, if you do that, you're going to be investing in places that negate the initial purpose, which is to basically just have a solid return and a solid investment. In terms of locations, it really depends. Lisbon still has it's very limited options in Lisbon. It's very difficult to find properties there for investors. Porto is a cheaper price per square meter. We have investors that like investing up there quite a bit. There's some townhouses I've seen recently which have been launched by a developer. I like that because a lot of it is generally apartments, hotel rooms, co-investment options. But this is the first time I've seen actual townhouses in a city centre location. They guarantee the return and they provide managed services so that it's eligible to be part of the 350,000 euro option. That one I think is very nice. If we look around the world right now, houses are generally outperforming apartments. So that's a nice location. That one in Porto, I think the one that's coming at the end of this month, the student accommodation, is very nice. There's one we have which is slightly higher, but it's an existing hotel, 5-star hotel brand. It's been in operation for over a decade. They guarantee 5% return for 5 years, and then they move to a profit share. And the location is ultra prime. I mean, it's right next to where Cristiano Ronaldo is building his house. So, yeah, there's a few which if a client asked me to pick out the best ones we have, I'd say those 3.
Fantastic. I love that. I get the feeling though, the main message here today is that, really time is of the essence. And I know a lot of our audience today, they're excited by the possibilities that the Portugal Golden Visa can open up for them. And I know Helena and Jeremy have given us a wealth of information here, but it is always best to get personalized consultations to see how it all applies for you. So do get in touch with the team at Savory and Partners today to see how they can best help you and your family. So Jeremy and Helena, it has been such an informative webinar. It has been amazing. And I know the audience has gained a wealth of experience from your insights and your expertise. So thank you both so much.
Thank you so much, Sally. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, a big thanks to you, our amazing audience, for tuning in and being part of the conversation today. Don't forget that this webinar is going to be available online on the Gulf News and AGNC3 YouTube channel. So make sure that you do subscribe and that you do share with your friends and family. My name is Sally Musa for Gulf News. See you next time.
Cristiano, faltam 3 para os 90. Ele vai!